question.
Hope everybody's
Welcome to
doing
the
great.
133rd season.
Yeah, hope everybody's doing wonderful. Extremely excited that we're getting ready to start team. We're gonna get out there today. Obviously, team practice starts tomorrow. Guys been working. The fall in baseball is a long season. It's a lot different when you get back after the new year. The window's shorter, so we get 3 weeks from tomorrow, and we'll be rolling them out there 3 weeks from now. College baseball season will start, and we couldn't be more excited.
You feel like expectations really heightened after last season's late run?
Yeah, definitely, and we want those expectations. We were talking about it the other day, that you want to coach somewhere where you have those expectations. When you coach at the University of North Carolina, every sport has those expectations. We had those expectations last year, everybody else just didn't. That was motivation for us. So I reminded our guys, whatever rankings, all that stuff, they are what they are. We don't really look at them too much. They're more for the fans, and to get them excited, we know what we need to do. And it's the same thing every year. You just gotta work hard and get a little bit better every day.
You talk a lot about kind of focusing on the present pitch, not looking ahead, not looking behind. But how much did last season, getting as close as you did to Omaha, maybe shape the way that you all and maybe the players approach the off season?
Yeah, I've been here a long time, and every season obviously has its own story, but the next season can definitely be affected by how that previous season ended, especially here when we have lost a tough one. And even though it was a great run, at the end of the day, we lost in a super regional at home. We want to win that super regional. So we talked about what that feeling was like in 2017 when we lost at home, and then came back and made it to Omaha in 2018 and 2012 when we lost in the regional to St. John's. And we just honored the 2013 team at the first pitch banquet. And I just talked to our guys like how motivated that team was. They were talented, they won a lot of games, but they were extremely motivated to find a way to not have that same feeling that they had in 2012. And I feel like it's the same way with us this year. We want to take that next step for sure.
I know you say you don't, inside this building, nobody cares about the outside expectations, but the players walk out of here and they hear about it. How do you keep them focused on what happens in here matters?
Yeah, it's a backbone of our program. As cliche as it sounds, of being process-oriented, being present, but we work on it daily, understanding how important practice is, how important to not get too high or too low. And you guys know that have covered college baseball, the season is so long. And you can be playing really, really good and be a top 5 team all country, and the whole season, and struggle down the stretch. Or you can get hot at the right time like we did, or you can get hot like Ole Miss did. So really, it's such a long season. Just remind those guys, like, you can't get too high or too low, and you have to be present focused.
Does last season start, middle, and end sort of show them?
100%. Yeah, we talk about what did you learn? What can we learn from last season, and what can we also learn if we start getting in a rut like we did last year, to get out of it. I'd like to get out of it a little bit quicker than we did last year. But that just goes to show how fast things can turn around, and also how you have to stay humble when you're playing well and not take any team for granted, because college baseball, I think this is my 26th season. It's as good as it's ever been, top to bottom. And if you don't play well, you'll get beat. It used to be, you could have some teams where you just kind of showed up. That's not the case anymore with the transfer portal. We're still affected by COVID. A lot of teams are older. They're able to fill the gaps with, 22, 23, 24-year-olds. So that's even the playing field nationally, in my opinion.
You touched on the portal. The good thing is you can bring a player in anytime. The bad thing is you can lose a player anytime. What is the dynamics of that? And it seems like you can revamp an entire baseball team in one season.
Yeah, and some are. We're fortunate at the University of North Carolina, in my opinion, because it's just not a place that guys want to leave. Every now and then a kid's just, they give it all they have and they can't get on the field, and the main reason is playing time. But now, as we know in the landscape, that's not the main reason all the time. But I feel good about, our culture. and our guys know the value of the Carolina degree, combining that with the opportunity, you know, to get to Omaha. We feel like every year we should have the ability and the talent to get to Omaha. But I'm honest with them too. Like, if you don't want to be at the University of North Carolina, you know, I guess that, I don't know how else to say it is, I'm so proud of this place that if you don't want to be here, go somewhere else.
Have you ever had an off season where you've brought in 19 players, including 12 pitchers? It seems like a huge influx of talent.
You know what? I probably have. But man, the seasons go it seems like they go faster and faster and faster. And I was looking at that, our recruiting classes, and they started growing more and more, probably around like 2007, 2008, just nationally. And now add in the transfer portal. I think that's going to make the numbers a little bit higher. But you're always recruiting based on needs, and you'd rather have too many good players than not enough. And the unique thing about college baseball is we're all battling the draft. And you don't truly know what that roster is going to be until that last signing day, whenever it is. I don't remember when it was this past summer, but we didn't know. You know, you don't know. And if there's a good player out there and you have a chance to get them, you get them. And then if you get lucky and you get an Alberto Osuna back and you get a Matt Horvath back, that's not a bad thing. That's a good thing.
When you lose leaders like Angel and Danny, who had been here played under Coach Fox, who have you seen sort of step up to be in that leadership role just initially?
Yeah, both those guys, I mean, they did a good job because they weren't leaders when they got here. And that's the neat thing about UNC. They learned it from somebody else. You know, a lot, when Danny was a freshman in 2019, there were a lot of guys that were leaders on that team, from Michael Bush to Austin Bergner to Tyler Baum, you name it. But I would say the guy that really sticks out to me positionally is Matt Horvath. I think he's really learned how to lead. He led by example, but now he's learning how to lead by running the locker room and speaking up when he needs to speak up. And you know, we have 2 fifth-year guys in Nick Prine and Will Sandy on the pitching staff, which is a big luxury for me because they've been here and they've seen a lot.
Do you think Mac is extra motivated this year because he had to miss the last game?
Yeah, no doubt about it. That was a tough break for him, you know, and for us. Obviously, nothing like getting a phone call in the middle of the night that you're leading RBI potential guys out. And what do you have, 18 home runs or something at the time? And but yeah, he definitely is. And Mac's biggest motivation, though, is to win. He's going to be a pro. He's going to play. I think he's going to play in the major leagues. But when you get guys like that trumps the other stuff, you have a chance to have a really good locker room.
We talked about kind of outside expectations for the team, but there's also a lot on Vance Honeycutt after what he did his freshman season, and where have you seen him improve in the offseason? I mean, it seems a little crazy from an outside to think that he could even take it to a next level.
Yeah. I mean, anytime you have that type of year, you're going to be talked about, and you're going to have those expectations. To give Vance credit, he's a worker. I feel like he's an even better player. That doesn't mean in baseball your numbers on paper will end up being the same, because you know, numbers can be a little bit misleading. But at the end of the day, I feel like Vance is stronger. I feel like he's faster. I feel like he's a smarter player. You know, and the good thing for Vance is he's surrounded by some other really good players. So that takes some of the pressure off him. He just happens to get the extra attention because he, you know, hit 25 home runs and stole 29 bases, I believe. So, well, I'm just thankful he's on our team and has those expectations, and because I wouldn't want to be playing against him.
Do you talk to him about the hype and all the outside noise at all, or is it kind of just let him handle it?
You know, I do try to talk to kids early on and just say, okay, you know, it is what it is. And the most important trait for those guys that have that is humility. And we talk about it as a team, that you can be humble and you can be confident. But as soon as you lose that humility, we have a saying in our locker room, what's coming, that's a big old piece of humble pie. So it's okay to be good, it's okay to play confident, but you also have to know, like, hey, you've never arrived. Because that you have to keep working to continue to get better and to help our team win. Advances like that. But we did talk about it. We said, hey man, you know, now you got to know, okay, you have to learn how to walk. You have to learn how to look at the ball more, because teams are going to pitch you more carefully. But I think that can be a big asset for us and for Vance, because when he learns to do that, it's like a double, because he can steal second base in one pitch.
Who stands out among the new pitchers that joined your program?
We got a lot, like you said. And I would say collectively, the whole group stands out. You know, I was a pitching coach here a long time, and our pitchers did a phenomenal job last year, but we still were never comfortable with our pitching depth from top to bottom, and we're more comfortable with it. Haven't played a single game, so obviously that's preseason. But I feel like we have more options and a deeper level of talent on the mound. I don't want to necessarily leave anybody out, but some of the guys that did transfer in, Jake Knapp from Walter State, he's got a chance to be pretty special. We had the two-time Ivy League Pitcher of the Year in Kevin Acey. He can really pitch, and he reminds me a lot of Cooper Criswell with his skill set. Just fills up the zone, a really good slider, tough kid. We get Dalton Pence back, who we were counting on heavily last year, but unfortunately he had an injury as a freshman, and he had to miss last season. And he was the Coastal Plain League Pitcher of the Year. He was able to pitch this summer. He's got a chance to make it in our rotation, and then a bunch of other guys that I feel pretty good about. Matty Mathias stands out, a freshman from Greenville, North Carolina. So I'm excited to see how that shakes out and how we figure out exactly who's going to be the starters and who's going to be the back end guys, because obviously losing Palermo at the back end is something we have to figure out as quick as we can. But sometimes that takes a little bit of time.
But Max, I assume, would be at the top of the rotation.
Yeah, I mean, right now he's a big game pitcher, and he got better, as you all saw. What we've challenged Max with is you got to pitch deeper into games if you're going to pitch for us on Friday. 5 innings is great, but we need 7 innings, and he's worked hard to get in better shape. But he's got what it takes, and we saw that at the end when he started on Tuesday against Clemson. He started against NC State. His stuff started to play up. But he also has some guys nipping on his heels, and that's what you want. That's what we have when Alex White was our Friday guy, Adam Warren, Matt Harvey. Those guys keep those guys on edge, and that helps them continue to get better. So I believe he'll start the season on Friday, but we also have 3 weeks, and I'm a firm believer that I don't care what you did last year. I mean, experience does matter, but we're going to put the guy out there that we feel like is going to give our team the best chance to win on Friday, but also save the rest of our pitching staff on Friday.
The ACC look to be as good as ever this year?
I think, yeah, it's so strong. There are just no weak teams anymore. And there's star players throughout the league. I know a lot of people like to talk about the SEC, but the ACC is as good. And, I'm excited. It's a gauntlet, but I'm excited to go through that gauntlet.
I've always been asked about baseball recruiting. You mentioned that the MLB draft and how it affects your signing classes. How do you strategize recruiting, trying to get the best players, but also understanding that the best players may get drafted and never go to college? Like, what's that like from a strategy when you're sending out offers and taking the commitments?
Lose a lot of sleep. Because the trick is, when we first got here, I came as a volunteer with Coach Fox, and we kind of passed on some kids in the recruiting because we thought they were not going to college. They were signing pro. They were too good. Well, the next thing you know, they go to school, and they're beating you. Mm-hmm. So we flipped that philosophy, and we just said, okay, if a kid's good, no matter how good he is, we're going to try to get him committed to the University of North Carolina. If we lose him to the draft, that's a stinker, but we do know that if he goes to school, where he's going. So that's where we start. We try to get the most talented kid. We don't care if he's the #1 ranked player in the country, because, there are some guys that sometimes will end up at college, like a Matt Harvey or an Andrew Miller or Alex White. So that's where we start, and then you realize, okay, as it moves along, you try to track it, you try to keep up with it in the spring, and if a guy looks like he's that good and he's going to be picked that high, then you try to fill that gap with either another player or now maybe a transfer. And we started doing that more probably in 17 with some junior college kids, and we've had a lot of success with those JUCO kids. You look at a guy like Alberto Osuna, who we brought in like, hey, maybe this kid can help us a little bit, and he ends up hitting 20 home runs and driving in 60 maybe.
Yeah, so I guess a transfer really helps that situation, whether it'll sign with you.
Yeah, it does. It definitely does. And obviously, the COVID has made a big difference, because guys have gotten the extra year. And when that goes away, it'll be back to a little more of, yeah, we have the transfer portal, but you're not going to have 24-year-olds all over the field anymore.
How do you manage a roster? Every team, every sport, Matt talks about it, not so much Coach Davis, but as a baseball coach dealing with the portal, the draft, COVID, how do you manage a roster with some semblance of sanity?
You know, there is a cap. The NCAA came back. You know, COVID there was not one. And this year you can carry 35 players, and if you have the fifth years under certain criteria, you can carry over the 35. So that's where you manage it. You can start with more than that number, but it is a challenge, and it's even more of a challenge, in my opinion, at the bigger schools. You know, the Power Fives, the North Carolinas, the LSU's, the Tennessees, because we are getting some of those guys that have the potential to be drafted really high. And really, in a perfect world, you lose a lot of your juniors, you know, in my opinion, because they have such a great year. Like Matt Horvath is a true junior. If he plays like we want him to play, he goes in the back end or the first round and he signs. So the better your players perform, the more you're going to lose them. But there's also a chance they can come back. So, you know, really, it's a juggling act, and again, you don't truly know until those 20 rounds happen, and then the signing deadline comes.
I assume Colby would be slipping over to shortstop.
It's a good assumption. We weren't sure. We had some other guys come in that have really shown that they can also play shortstop, but to give Colby credit, you know, Danny told me a lot last year. Coach, I'm just telling you, like, Colby's that good at shortstop. And I wasn't going to pull Danny Shreddy off shortstop because I just felt like he was our leader. But even Danny, he's got some good awareness. And Colby has continued to get better. We do feel like he can be a dynamic, all ACC type defensive shortstop. We need him to take another step. He's back to switch hitting. And he's been pretty good, so he's gonna switch hit for us this year to give us another left-handed bat. But right now, he's the leading candidate to play shortstop.
Then platoon again at first, or do you know?
Yeah, I mean, you know, we've got some good options there in Stokes and Osuna and Johnny. You know, so it could be a platoon situation. You know, Stokely is gotten a little more versatile. He can move around the field a little bit more if we need to. We can move him to third base. We can move Mac to right. But Stokes improved too. Like we've challenged him hard to be better, to get better as the season goes along, to keep his strength. And he's pretty good defensively. So I put a very big premium on first base defense because I know how important it is. But you'll see all three of those guys over there.
And who are the candidates for second?
Right now, a freshman, Austin Hawk, has played extremely well. We have a redshirt freshman, Casey Cook, who's a left-handed hitter that started the season for us in left field, but had to medically redshirt with shoulder surgery. He's back. He's healthy. He looks great. I would say those two, and then Jackson Vanderbrake. And then we have the ultimate utility guy that we can always count on, Patrick Alvarez, who can play all over the field. Reminds us a lot of Mikey Madej.
Whose bat has stood out in the fall or in the summer? I know you got, you know, Mac and Ben and Alberto coming back, but I guess who do you see maybe who wasn't in the rotation or getting many at bats last year that could play themselves into that this year?
Yeah, you know, I feel like Frick is really taking a jump offensively. I know he's played every day, but I feel like he could have that breakout type year for us. But a guy that has really shown that we have to find a way to get him in there is Eric Grants. He just has good at bats. It's hard to strike out. He's older. He's strong. He can hit righties. He can hit lefties. He can hit the ball out of the park. So he stood out to me like, okay, this kid, we got to find a way to get him in there, get him some at bats, because I feel like the more at bats he gets, the more you're going to see what he's capable of doing. And the same thing with Max Reamer. He's a fifth-year guy. We used him a lot off the bench, but I think he can do a lot more than that.
What has the competition been like for those players trying to get into that starting rotation, whether it's on the mound or at the plate?
Yeah, you know, if you have good depth, it makes everybody better because the competition is higher. And on our best teams, I mean, there are guys that aren't in the lineup that, in my opinion, some years could be in the lineup in the top 5, and that's what you want. So I feel like that the competition has been high. Obviously, we returned some older players, but some of these younger guys that got a little bit of taste of playing, you see a big growth, or you don't see a growth between that freshman and sophomore year. And a lot of our guys that have come back for their second year have really improved. So that's helped us across, on the mound and positionally.
What are you looking for in that first game versus Seton Hall? I mean, I know game one, there's a lot that could be accomplished, but what are you hoping stands out in that first game?
Opening day is so exciting, so I try not to get too amped myself. I think back to 2013 where we were preseason number 1 in the country and we thought, well, we'll win this game 20-0, and Ken Emanuel goes out there and we win 1-0 because 106 pitches, and I'm going to bed that night thinking, well, are we that good or not? And then the next day we start playing a little bit better. For me, what I talk to our guys about all the time is I just want us to play Carolina baseball, which is extremely fundamentally sound. We pitch at a high level and we defend at a high level. Like, you have to beat us. We're not going to beat ourselves. Everybody wants the home runs. Everybody wants the doubles. That's going to come, I think, with this team. But the game doesn't lie from the standpoint, if you don't pitch and you don't defend, it's going to be hard to be consistent. So that's what we're going to look for early. Just, okay, can we pitch it at a high level and can we make plays?
After 2020 and 2021, did last spring and summer big games at the Bosch down the stretch, did that kind of feel like a return to normal for you and for the program?
Yeah, it was awesome.
Yeah.
First of all, 21, I don't even know what happened in 21 personally. I just know it was a whirlwind. We go from playing Boston College with no fans, like a scrimmage, to being in a regional at Texas Tech where you can't even hear anything. And then last year, it felt we had some of that normalcy, and then the postseason at the Bosch, and it was as loud as I've heard it, and I just thought it was awesome. First pitch banquet the other night, it's starting to feel like it was before COVID, and that's a good feeling, especially for these guys, because that's been a tough deal on them.
We've had alcohol sales at Boschmer for 2 years now, 2 seasons, 2-season sample size.
Yeah.
Have you noticed a difference in the fan base compared to the previous?
Is that a trick question?
Just thought I'd get a little loose here.
I found out today we have a new beer garden or something.
There you go.
Somebody tells me that today.
Any difference
The
last 2
Modelo
years?
beer garden. I love baseball, so you're talking to somebody that loves to go to a ball game and have a hot dog and peanuts and a cold beer. So if that brings out more fans and that makes them louder, I'm all for it. So all I can tell you is I thought our crowd was awesome last year. And they've been awesome as well in the past, but I thought they were extra awesome last year.
The freaking awesome shirts making a comeback. Have you seen them around?
I hadn't seen them around. That was something that just kind of, I think Hunter Stokely just had the shirt, and it just kind of caught fire. And whatever these guys want to do, fine with me.
I was reading that some college teams, for their pitchers, are using pitching watches. I think Vandy is one of the ones that's come out. But is that any plans to do anything like that?
We're using, there's 2 systems, 2 different ones. We've got another one called PitchCom that's on the way, kind of like the major leagues. We can't use it quite as much as the major leagues because the rules are different for college, but it speeds up the game. We love it. It prevents teams from getting your signs. We used them all fall. And I was honestly blown away at how fast it allows your players, especially defensively, to go. And that's another emphasis now with the game is pace of play. So for us, it's going to help us have an even quicker pace.
You mentioned kind of some of the limitations in terms of how much you can use them. Like, how does that differ from MLB?
The MLB is voice oriented, so now ours still has to be digital. Like the voice can't in the hat, and the MLB pitcher will hear fastball away. They're even talking about like getting, voices like Samuel L. Jackson and stuff in the big leagues, which I thought was great. So eventually we'll probably go to that too. But right now, it vibrates, it does some different things, but basically it just says, fastball away right there, digital. The catcher sees it and they throw it. So there's no signs, there's no exchange, and it's quick.
You've got a lot of questions about this, but just want to ask what we think the outfield is going to be looking like with
Okay.
Mikey and Angel.
Yeah, obviously, I think we know he's going to play center, and we hope. He'll stay healthy all year. Left field's, Max Reamer's shown that he can definitely play it. He actually reminds me a lot of a kid that played here in '06 and had a great year for us, Jay Cox, way back. He's not gonna be like a glamorous outfielder, but he's gonna make the routine play, and I think he's got a chance to hit a little bit. Casey Cook has shown versatility that he can play right, left, second. So those three guys, you know, as well as Reese Holbrook is back and he's improved. He's got the speed. I don't know if we'll move any of our infielders out there, but Patty Alvarez can play out there just like Mikey. He can play left, he can play right, he can play second. He's a plus defender. But I would say right now, you know, Reamer, Honeycutt, Cook, you know, Holbrook as well. And then there is one freshman that's really shown that he's going to need to be in the game probably late, and that's Carter French. Really kind of a recruited walk-on, wide receiver from Tampa Jesuit. Great story, got into school on his own. So we said, yeah, just come on out and give it a shot. And he's shown over the course of time that he's a pretty dang good player, so we're excited about him as well.
Take two more for Coach.
I'll go again. Just wanted to ask, you know, we talked a little bit over the summer when Honeycutt was trying out for that USA Baseball collegiate national team. Just want to ask, like, what conversations you had with him throughout and after that process and what he learned from that.
Yeah, you know, he was fighting a little bit of a hammy, pulled hammy, so he wasn't 100% when he did that, but he was good enough to give it a shot. You know, I was shocked that he didn't make the team. Obviously, I wasn't there, so I'm biased because I coached him. I've been coaching a long time, but I know he's pretty dang good. I also thought that he was going to be the ACC Freshman of the Year, and I'll proudly say I thought he should have been. But we just talked about, like, okay, now that you didn't make it, how can we get ready for this season? We got to get healthy, and we got to go to work. He was going to go to the Cape, but we figured getting that hamstring healthy and then going through a full fall, being able to get in the cages with Coach Wiersbicki, work on, you know, still in third base. So really it worked out well for him and for us because he was able to rest his body. He had played every game as a freshman. He had a really productive fall for us.
One more for Coach.
What do you think of robo-homes? The strike zone deal. I mean, I know it's not a college thing, but as a baseball guy.
That's a great question. I've talked to some of our pro guys that had it in the minor leagues and they hated it. I don't know what to think about it, honestly, because I just want the call to be right. And, you know, if they get to where the game's more consistent and the calls are better and balls are balls and strikes are strikes, it won't bother me at all. So I'll try not to go too deep into that.
All right, no more learning specific umpers.
Yeah, I don't want to talk too much about umpiring.
All right, thank you, Coach.
Thank y'all.